AI has fundamentally disrupted what we knew about the talent space. Well, I think AI interviews are really good. I like them, and I think that they basically get a lot done very quickly. And really, when you figure out how to use AI in this work, your productivity is going to increase dramatically. And I think that's really important for you to understand how you partner with AI and the work that you do to make yourself more efficient.
Welcome to the podcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host, Adam Posner.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast where I bring in the best and the brightest in the world of business, marketing, and personal growth to help you harness your inner tenacity and drive your career forward. Folks, my guest today is Jason Walker, co-founder of ThriveHR Consulting and one of today's leading thinkers in modern HR. And Jason is an industry veteran, global speaker, and trusted talent advisor who has helped companies transform their people practice through massive shifts. Yeah, like AI, workforce transformation, M&A, and you name it, even more. He and his partner launched ThriveHR to give organizations fractional, high-impact HR support across executive coaching, DEI&B, employee relations, compliance, global HR, and more. And he's been recognized as a top 100 global HR influencer, LinkedIn top voice, a whole bunch of other acclimates. He's on boards. He talks about a lot of things that we like to talk about on this show. So let's do it. Jason, welcome to the podcast, man.
Hey, great to be here, Adam. Thanks for inviting me.
Awesome. Now, is that the actual weather behind you in Austin, or is this a green screen over there?
That is a green screen. The weather actually today is cold and rainy, but we've had phenomenal weather in Austin the last couple of months. It's just been 70s, 80s almost every day. So weather's been fantastic.
Well, that's good to hear. But more importantly, what's your go-to number one barbecue spot in Austin?
Go-to number one barbecue spot in Austin. It has to be like Goods is really good. I like them.
I've not tried that.
The County Line is really good too, if you've ever been to County Line. There's so many of them, but it's hard to find a bad one.
Yeah, that's the thing, though, right? Even the one that's not the best is still pretty damn good by conventional standards. You're not gonna be totally disappointed. I'm a Terry Black kind of guy. That's kind of my go-to.
That's really good. Yeah. I always judge a good barbecue by their sides.
I thought you were going to say that. Yes.
Yeah. Sides to me are really important. There's a barbecue place by my house. I love them, but their sides are it's sort of not exciting.
Yeah, I'm also a coleslaw guy. I don't know about you, but I'm a coleslaw connoisseur, and I could differ. I have the mayonnaise base and the vinegar base, and depending where I'm going, and if you're going to Austin, it's going to be the vinegar one, and you got to get it. You got into it. But we digress here. Let's get into the good stuff here. So, Jason, first and foremost, thank you for joining us here, and I got to ask, how and why did you get into the people business? How did you make a turn down this road of HR and people?
Well, it was actually, I made the conscious choice to do it, and I look back on it now, and it made sense. It definitely is a challenging occupation to be in for most of your career. I'm dyslexic, and so I had significant learning disabilities. So going down the road and being somebody who was involved in math and the sciences and things like that wasn't necessarily in the cards for me. So I had to find something that made sense for a dyslexic. And since we make up for things in different ways, I always had very strong people skills, and I had always very strong process skills and looking for patterns and work and understanding people. And so that really lent me to a career in human resources, and it's served me well now. Obviously, I've learned to overcome all those challenges with dyslexia and other things that I've had, but it just made a lot of sense that this was a good career for me.
It's so interesting too. So you always had that built-in empathy muscle, right? Or was that something you've had to continue to develop?
No, I've always had an empathy muscle because look, when I was growing up and I had $1 for every person that called me stupid or thought I was lazy. And this was before people really knew about learning disabilities. And so for me, I felt a lot of that, and I got a lot of that as I was growing up. So I know what it's like to be feeling bad about yourself. I know what it's like to be down. I know what it's like for people like college. There's a job opening at the Shell. You can go work there. And so, not that I'm denigrating Shell, but or somebody who works there,
Right.
but it was just basically, hey, look, we don't see you having much of a future doing anything. And so I always have a lot of empathy for the underdog and people who are struggling. And, I want people to have the best life that they can. And for me, that's really, really important.
I absolutely love that mindset. And I know I'm jumping ahead a bit, but we talk about the market right now, which is so I don't even know. I mean, listen, you've spent 15 years in this business, right? You've been through the dot-com bust and the Great Recession. What feels different now about the talent landscape heading into 2026? Let's start there.
Well, I have an article that's coming out soon at World of Work that I'll share. But what I talk about in that article is that AI has fundamentally disrupted what we knew about the talent space. And what we've said in the past was that, hey, you knew how to find a job, which is always about networking and applying for a job. That always worked, and you were always able to use that. Now, networking and applying and going out and looking for a job, that doesn't work anymore. Like,
No.
literally, that's a dead end. And then you always knew what kinds of jobs were out there, meaning, well, this is the job that I want, and I know I can do this job. Well, the fact is that jobs are changing so fast right now, you're not even really sure what jobs are looking like right now. Like, you really don't know. Like, if you look at UC Berkeley, and I grew up in the Bay Area, UC Berkeley CS computer science grads were largely in demand all the time. They had 6 or 7 offers
Hmm.
before they left
I
engineering
remember that.
school. Yeah, now they have 0. So that's because AI has taken on so much development work that you don't need as many computer science graduates. You just don't need it. And so you go to school, you go to Berkeley, you think I have a CS degree and I'm going to be safe. No. So you don't even know what jobs are out there anymore for you. And then third is companies don't know what they're going to need going into the future. Do we need this skill? Do we need that skill? Well, let's just kind of slow roll what we need to hire for because we're going to see how much more efficient we're going to get with AI. So I think those 3 things have completely upended the job market, and employees and employers don't know how to move forward in it.
Yeah, I mean it's such a great take, and you did a great job at simplifying the not the very complicated, and it's so nuanced in so many different ways. And I sit here in my position as a recruiter, and I see the struggles daily of job seekers who are just frustrated. They're frustrated at applying into black holes and not getting responses. And then when I try to say to them, listen, there's 2 realities happening right now. And I hate to say this, but companies have their pick of the litter, and they're not in a position now to take works in progress. They're not in a position right now to take folks pivoting or who have fringe skills. They have the ability right now, because there's so many good people out of work, to take the top of the top. So you as a job seeker need to change your mindset and be that much more strategic in the roles you're applying for. Otherwise, you're not managing your own expectations. If I could objectively say, hey, Jason, I am only 75% qualified for this role based on paper, it's probably not a good chance that I'm going to get a phone call for it, because there's people that are 99, 100% qualified. And those are the ones that are going to get a call. So I should truly focus on the roles and companies where I have a better chance instead of spraying and praying.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people that say right now, in order to find a job, you have to have a warrior mentality. And I feel bad about that. I don't think that's how we should have people have to go
No.
look for a job. But basically, people are saying it's like going into battle. Like, you have to be tougher and more tested and more skilled than anyone else. And if you are, you will most likely get the job. But however, if you aren't, you're going to get weeded out and you're not going to get the job. And they've made it a really, I think, like you said, competitive situation. And people who just want to work and people who just want to get a job and pay their bills and they're not into intense competition,
Yeah.
they're being left on the sidelines because they don't know how to compete in this market.
Ooh, it's really tough. And it's one of those things where, Jason, sometimes we do have to give tough love because it is what it is. This is the market right now, and if there's nothing you could do about it, you could control how you react to it and how you engage in it. And that leads down the path of where candidates are relying on AI tools from an application process, from augmenting their resumes, and there's folks that are pushing it a little bit too far. Maybe they're embellishing a bit more, and that's getting sussed out by the filters or good recruiters. And then they say, you know what, who cares if I'm doing that, because companies are doing the same side with candidate ranking with AI tools and candidate sourcing. So are we in a race to the bottom? I mean, I personally think that we are, and eventually we're going to hit rock bottom and get back to just being human in the process. How do we stop this? How do we fix this?
Well, I think you're in a situation where you want to, I'm going to use a Cold War term, which is mutually assured destruction. So basically, you've got, as an
I love it.
employer, you've got an AI tool, and as an employee, you got an AI tool. So you're both using these AI tools, and the AI tool for the employee is sending out thousands of resumes, scraping thousands of jobs, applying, and then you're, as an employer, you're getting all these resumes, and you're like, going back to your point, you're filtering out for the 100% fit. And
Right.
so right now, the whole AI war is just not benefiting anyone. And so basically everybody is self-destructing in the process. So something has to give. And I think that, based upon what I said in my earlier premise, I think once companies get a better view of how much AI is going to um, make work simpler and how much they're going to use AI in their organizations, I think maybe that breaks the logjam so that they can really understand what they're going to need and what they're going to hire for. I truly believe that until that happens, we're going to just be at this loggerhead, and we're not going to be able to figure out, who's going to, go where and what jobs are going to be available. So to me, that
It's
is the stalemate we got to resolve.
it's a mess right now, and it's a volume problem, right? I mean, it's also a volume problem. I think the AI on both sides, are we solving a volume problem, or are we solving a quality problem? Or how do we solve both at the same time? That's kind of the where my head is at these days. How do us on the other side, on the hiring side, use the AI to make sure that we're, first and foremost, that it's a fair and equitable hiring process, that we're not discriminating anybody, and how do we give everyone a fair chance? Like, to flip it in a positive note, Jason, one of the elements that I see positive use of AI is in the AI interviewing, and I'll give you an example of this. What if we give everybody who applies the opportunity to interview immediately or in their own schedule with an AI interviewer that's going to ask some basic questions, some basic screening questions that are either going to push you to the top of the list, or you're going to have some self-actualization, say, you know what? If these are questions you're going to ask me on the interview, maybe I'm not right for this position. Maybe it's not the right role. And at least they feel a touch point with the company from a candidate experience perspective. I see that as a positive. What else are you seeing out there in a positive light? It can't be all doom and gloom.
Well, I mean, I think AI interviews are really good. I mean, I like them, and I think that they basically get a lot done very quickly. So I'm all for AI interviews. I think that's really good. I mean, I think one of the major challenges that we have is, I think we need to figure out how we give feedback to people that are applying to things that they're
Mm,
just not a fit for. And so we need to be using AI to say, hey, look, we got your resume and you're not a fit, but okay, let's say it in a different way. Like, we've got your resume, but you are not qualified for this position. These are the reasons why
and
you're not
here's why.
qualified. And here's why: you don't have any of the skills. And, basically give people some feedback, because that's what they're wanting to have. You have so many people that are applying to jobs that they have no reason to apply for, and then they get frustrated that they're not getting any feedback. So I think we've got to give people some help to understand why they're not getting
That's
past the sending the resume.
that's all they're asking, is to close a feedback loop.
Yeah.
It's not that hard when I mean, I remember when I started recruiting 10 years ago and I was working in house at some companies, it's a simple, or even if it's an automated rejection, I mean, automated meaning I'm a human, I looked at your background and you're not a right fit. And it's just saying that they want some type of closure. They want some type of notification. Well, feedback's a tricky one, right? I mean, I think early stage at a job application process, you can be pretty straightforward. And then it gets harder as you get into the process too, because not every candidate, two things. One, not every candidate handles feedback well. And it's sometimes, and I'm curious to your take on this, from an HR perspective, it opens up, liability where, you'll give feedback and like, that's not what happened. That's not what was said. And they'll push back to the point where, it puts in a confrontational situation.
I don't think that I think, like, when we talk about like giving feedback to somebody who applied who's not qualified, I think it's like, well, the AI can like suss out, hey, out of the 10 things that we needed, you didn't qualify for 9 of them. So as a result, we're not moving forward with your candidacy. So I think that's one way to do it. But I agree with you. I don't think that you can give people feedback on why they're not like why they didn't get the job or why they're not a candidate for the job in more senior positions, because look, we live in a world now where everybody is right. And so, I mean, so
Right?
exactly.
Everyone feels entitled to their correctness.
Yes, everybody has their own story and their own degree of this is what I feel and I'm right.
Right.
So I agree. I don't think you should give feedback, but I think you should close out the loop and
Always.
say, hey, look, you're not a fit. We liked your communication skills, blah, 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 whatever it is. Give them something positive and let them know. I think what people just get really frazzled at is this complete lack of communication to go down the entire
Yep.
process and then nobody hears anything and they get completely ghosted. I think if we could just stop doing that, that would help out a lot in the process.
People just want closure too, and I tell people this too, and I've said it many times too. My definition of ghosting is it's not like applying and not hearing anything. For me, it's like if you have an actual contact, either email or phone or video with a human being, and you don't hear back after that, because a lot of people just apply into the abyss, as you said before, who are completely unqualified. And does that truly warrant a response? Is it wasting someone's time to have to review it if you're wasting somebody else's time? I know it's a bit spicy there. I mean, I ultimately feel that everybody, if you apply, should get some type of response. But at the same time, if you're 0% relevant, if it literally says the job is only in New York and no relo available or anything like that, and you're unqualified, I mean, I'm making up all these things, is that ghosting if you don't hear back?
No, I don't think that's ghosting. I think if you get an auto reply that says, hey, we've looked at your resume, you're not a fit, I think that's cool. I have no issue with that. I think where I have the issue with, and I'll talk about a personal example,
Please.
I had an interview with a huge oil company, and they asked me to come in and interview for their global head of talent for worldwide talent. And I said, well, look, I don't have an oil and gas background. You guys are always really predispositioned to hire people in oil and gas. I'll come in, but I don't want to waste your time and my time if you're not going to hire me. I said,
Right.
because it's just not worth it. So anyway, I came in, did really good, did really well, on the interviews. They went and said, we want you, we want you. Basically, we're getting ready to make me an offer, checked all my references, and then I didn't hear anything. I mean, it was just complete silence.
Bizarre.
I go, okay, this is weird. And like a week went by, and I was working with a very well-known recruiting firm. And so I called them and I said, hey, look what's going on. I said, you guys check my references. My references are calling me saying, congratulations, this is an amazing job that you got.
What's going on here?
What's going on? And they're like, oh, we decided that we just couldn't pull the trigger because you didn't have oil and gas experience. We decided not to do it.
Bro, didn't I say that before we even started this process?
Exactly.
Bro.
Yeah, and my point was, you couldn't even bother to close the loop with me. You couldn't even bother to tell me.
And it's a TA role.
Yeah,
it's so
it's
counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So
that's disrespectful. That's just disrespectful. That's a disrespect to someone's time.
And to me, when you're talking about things like at that level or the managerial level or a high performing individual contributor job, you deserve to be closed out like in an honorable way. Like you may not like the answer, but it's like, oh, that's too hard to talk to that person. We're just not going to say anything and hide. I just think that that's what drives people crazy in this market is, like you said, the complete lack of disrespect.
Yeah, so let's switch gears a little bit. And you've been talking a lot about job hugging, and I've heard this out there too. And for anyone out there, it's really what it means is people staying put at their companies. They're trying to they're not looking to move because the market is bad or rough. I mean, how do you define job hugging? What's it all about? And why is it becoming widespread? Or is it just another stupid cliche like quiet quitting?
Well, we've moved into the 21st century where we have to name everything, so everything has to have a name, which is not bad. But
it gives us people like us something to talk about.
Yeah, talk about exactly. Well, I think job hugging is interesting because it's like you said, Adam. It's like staying in a job and not wanting to move and being scared to move. I think that's a big part of it. Is I'm scared to move because I don't know what's going to happen if I start to look around. And does my company hear that I'm looking around? And do I become potentially a candidate to get laid off if they think I'm not happy here? And also, I'm not sure that if I go and I look, I could make as much money in this job, because what's happening right now is that salaries are going down. So
Mm-hmm.
chances are it's a very high likelihood that if you are being paid $100,000 in the job that you're in now, most likely your job doing the same thing with the way the market is will pay you 85,000, because there's so
I
many
see it all
people
the
out
time.
there. Yeah. And then the other thing is, there have been so many layoffs that people now are not taking jobs where, because of that. And then people are also not taking jobs where they have to relocate to take a job, because they've seen people be relocated and
They get
later
laid
they get
off.
laid off. So this whole cycle of movement for opportunity that the US used to have, where people would
And
move to get ahead, is gone. People don't do that anymore.
yeah, and plus a lot of the return to office hybrid is just eliminating that flexibility. You have to
Cor-
be, you have to be in that
Correct.
area. And so
Correct.
what I was talking to somebody not on a podcast, and they were very clear. They said, "This is an interesting thought, and I really haven't thought about it. Like hybrid's not really the best situation, right? Because you still have to live close enough to that headquarters. Yes, you could be remote, but if I'm hybrid in New York, that means I have to live in the tri-state area and deal with the cost of living. That's not true, hybrid. So it's either companies go all in remote or all in the office. What's your take? And we're
Well,
speaking generally speaking, right? Because there's a lot of obviously nuances here, and certain companies can be really hybrid.
well, I think that employees want flexibility. And so if you're a hybrid, I think people are pretty cool with that, from the standpoint that, you have that flexibility. If you don't want to go in, if it's raining, or you have
If it's
to,
raining,
well, you don't live in Texas. I mean, that's what it's
yeah.
like in Texas. It rains and people are like, I can't get into the office. So we're very concerned about weather here, unfortunately. But no, I think that the hybrid thing, is a big factor for people, and they want the ability to be able to work um, uh, hybrid. Now, I think that, obviously full-time remote is is interesting in the fact that you're going to be out there in the job in the hinterlands working remotely, but you've got to be at a company that doesn't mind that will basically promote you and advocate for you, even though you're working out in, Pocatello, Idaho, or wherever it is. And so unless you have a company that's prepared to do that and agrees to that, remote working isn't necessarily going to be your friend if they don't see the value in it, and that's not in line with their values right now.
Hey everybody, Adam here from the Podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by the team at Fountain. Fountain is your full-service frontline workforce management platform. I have to tell you, Fountain's offerings are some of the most robust I've seen for any product in the space. They offer full solutions for hiring, managing, and retention. They are truly a one-stop shop focused on the frontline workforce. They also create informative content using their data. For example, they analyze a bunch of data from their fast food chains and created a trend report you could download now on their website. They also have a new ebook out called Frontline Voices. There's a lot to dive into. Certainly check it out. And you could learn more at fountain.com, linked in the show notes. Thank you. But what are your thoughts from an HR perspective about, culture and growth and togetherness and teamwork? That there's a value to people being together. How could you replicate that in a remote place, especially for younger employees? Those are the ones I feel for. I mean, I remember growing up, like in my early first 5-10 years, like how important it was for me to be around senior level folks from a mentorship perspective. I learned through osmosis, through watching them operate.
Well, that's a management issue. I mean, as a manager, you need to be talking to your employees and managing your employees. And that can happen via phone. That can happen when they're in person. Look,
Fair.
I've had really big teams in my career, and I always had ongoing one-on-ones, whether it was every week or every other week, with everybody on my team. So the people that were remote got developed the same way as the people who were in the office got developed. And I was always appreciated for those skills. And so just because come into the office, and if you have a
Yeah.
lousy manager, doesn't mean that you're
It
going to
doesn't mean
get
anything.
yeah, it just means he's going to be a lousy manager in your face as opposed to on the phone.
Well, that's totally fair. So, organizations are hiring less and they're expecting more, right, from leaner teams. What risks are HR leaders not paying attention to, especially now when it comes to culture, burnout, and compliance?
Um, well, in terms of culture, I think that we're really missing on what happens when things get a little bit better, when things start to improve a little bit, and the basically things start to loosen up where there's a few more jobs. A lot of companies have gone so far the other direction in terms of how they treat people. Before it was like, oh, we got free lunches, or we've got this, or we've got this perk or that perk. Now it's basically like you don't have any perks. Be lucky that you have a job and be in here every day and get your work done, and you'll be lucky if you get a middle of the road performance rating. So we've really gone to the far end of the spectrum. I think we need to not have gone so far. We need to still be creating an environment where people are appreciated. They want to, and we want to be able to train them and help them get to the next level. We want to be able to be a resource for them as an organization, and we want them to feel respected. And a lot of that has just gone by the wayside. We've just really said everything that we learned about culture and taking care of people the last 10 years has really changed in the last 24 months. And I think that's really awful. And that has gone so far the other direction by companies.
Well said. I mean, I feel it too. I think it's also, I hate to say that culture is tied to loyalty. And I think that loyalty has really gone out the window in the last few years too, with all these layoffs and folks working 20 years for a company being laid off by email with nothing else. So I think there's a huge tie to that. For me, when I define culture in an organization, one of the big pillars is, do I feel valued in what I do in my job, in my career here at this company? And there's a clear path forward for me here to grow. And when you don't have that, what's the culture? I'm just a commodity. I'm just a worker bee here.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point, and that's sort of what I was alluding to, is the fact that, look, I mean, I don't have the faith that any company is going to retain me and has this loyalty to me. That's gone out the window. We now know that loyalty contract has
Hmm.
gone, it's out the window. But yeah, just treat me well. I mean, just treat me nice while I'm there, and I'll be happily produce for you. But if you don't, then I'm out. And I understand that contract is gone, but
Hmm.
getting appropriate treatment while I'm there, that hasn't changed. And maybe that inclines me to stay longer, or maybe I still leave, but at least you've created a good, healthy culture that people are going to talk about, and in the market, they're going to say good things about your company.
It's going to be an interesting few years for us who sit up here and look at what's happening out there. So let's talk about the next topic du jour, AI. We're hitting to a little bit earlier, but you were recently recognized for your AI expertise and even launched ThriveHR's AI service. What does practical AI adoption, actually look like for HR leaders right now, beyond the buzzwords?
Well, I think what we've talked about is we've created an operating model around how AI is going to work in the future within human resources and probably in other departments. So there's going to be, a CHRO or an HR leader that sits at the top. And then that person is going to have a very thin layer of people that reports into them. Maybe it's a person that is responsible for talent and comp, and another person that's responsible for, HR operations and philanthropy, or whatever else sits underneath there, recruiting, whatever it may be, talent development. And then underneath that, we're going to have AI tools that can help
Hmm.
support those things. We're going to have outside fractional firms like us to come in and be able to take on some of that work for them. And we're going to have other vendors that are going to help come in and take that work. You're not going to see these monolithic HR teams anymore, where you had giant teams with huge amounts of people doing talent or doing comp or doing other things. We're going to see a more lean team using resources that more cost efficient. And I think that one of those cost efficient tools is going to be AI. We're going to use AI, back to your point, for doing first level talent assessments. We're going to use
Hmm.
it for policy development. We're going to use AI for HR back office support in terms of working with the bot on, hey, I have a payroll issue, I have a this
Well,
issue, I have a that issue. So we're going to have the AI take on those things that it's very good at, but those things that the person needs to be good at in terms of understanding how that work needs to work within the organization, how we roll that out to the organization, and then being able to handle those things that you need to handle with empathy and compassion,
How do
and
you keep the
reaching out,
human in it?
yeah, and driving
And
those issues forward. That's going to be where the human aspect of it is really important.
100%. And I've been saying this ad nauseum too. If you use the tools the right way to give your recruiters and your talent team more time for the human elements, that's the real key here. So if you had to give HR leaders one action item, right, to prepare their workforce for this AI enabled world in 2026, what would it be, Jason?
Well, I would say, and I said this the other day in a post that I did on LinkedIn, and it had about almost 200,000 views on it, which is, if you are not prepared right now and you are not thinking about this right now, you are so far behind that I feel bad for you. Like, I'm almost at the point now where I feel like there's some degree of damage you've inflicted in your organization, if and to your career personally, if you're not figuring out what you're going to do with AI. I mean, if your company's not ready for it, I get it, but you have to have a plan and you have to know where you're going to go with AI, what you're going to do with it, because it is just coming at you so fast that it's
Well,
irresponsible to not be looking at it.
Well, I think there's a lot of fear out there about AI dehumanizing HR. So what are some of those best practices for leaders to integrate AI while still elevating the humanity, the empathy, and the connections inside the organization? Like, how
Well,
do you keep it real?
I think the C-suite needs to come together and decide, how are we going to use AI? Are we an organization that says we're going to use AI to make sweeping changes, to get rid of people, and to use AI to build efficiency and to make more money? Or are we a company that wants to use AI to build efficiencies, make our employees more efficient, and use it to help grow and develop the company while maintaining a human aspect to the corporation? And so I think one of the first things that you need to do is define what your strategy is for an organization. How much percentage of jobs do you think you want to outsource? I mean, what do you want to be known for? I mean, what is your strategy? I mean, look, this just happened with Salesforce. So Salesforce said, we're making AI do all of our customer support work. And also, if you need to search for something, we're taking away all of our searchable
Mm,
materials, and you have to go ask AI for the materials to search for a specific problem. Well, what people found was that using the AI to search was so much harder because the AI was spitting back tons of results. It wasn't that successful.
no.
So it was damaging to customer service. So as a corporation, you need to decide, what are the things we're going to use AI for, and what are the things that we're not going to use it for, and how do we make it successful? What do we do that successfully rolls it out? Because we could kind of wipe the slate clean with everything and use AI, but have we really thought about what the damage is going to do internally if we do that? So you have to have a strategy around that.
It's lack of it, and then there's the other thing too, where all these execs think, oh, we've got to go all in. That's the thing right now. It's all in on AI, and then they go and they buy it. But it's almost like someone you're giving you the keys to a Ferrari, but you don't know how to drive stick shift. You have no idea. It's a shiny object syndrome where they may not need it, they may not want it, but they feel like they have to have it, and no one is showing them how to drive it. Are you seeing a lot of that?
Um, well, I think that we've seen people want to make AI work and try to cram it into situations where it doesn't necessarily fit. And I'll go back to the Salesforce example where Benioff had to basically stop doing the searchable, how to bring back the searchable database because it just didn't work, and employees could find the answers faster in the searchable database than through AI. So there's some things that just haven't been productive and haven't worked. So it's the old saying, just because you have a hammer in your toolbox, that doesn't mean it's going to be the right tool for
Exactly.
every situation.
Interesting too. So let's talk a little bit about your business model. Let's talk about fractional HR. It's exploding right now. I do fractional TA. It's still in demand here. What's driving that demand for fractional support right now? Where's it coming from?
It's coming from a variety of situations, and I think one of the first things is hiring somebody who is a very expensive resource to come in, especially in an organization that may be like 250 people, 300 people, and you're hiring a very expensive, maybe $200,000 in salary, and then you've got benefits costs, and then
Of
you've got
course.
bonus and all that, and you're really close up to $500,000 for somebody to come
All
in,
in. Yeah.
and then and all of a sudden that person has a pile of work that they can't get to, and they go to the CEO or the board and they say, you need to hire more people because I can't support this. And they're saying, well, we've just spent,
We hired
$500,000
you
for
to
this
do
gig.
that.
Yeah, well, we hired you to do that.
That's
Well,
your
and
job.
that person says, I don't want to walk around and bring people to interviews, and I don't want to do filing, and I don't want to do all this work. And so what we found was there was a lot of that was going on. And so at scale, we can provide world-class services that you don't have to spend all that money for. And then also there was a certain amount of HR work that companies wanted done, and there was other things that they didn't want done or they didn't need done. So we provide them what they need and not what they don't need.
Exactly. And to that point too, and it's one of my selling points too, you may not need someone like you or I all year long as a full-time
Exactly.
employee.
Yeah.
It may be a early stage startup. It may be at a point with the company where there's only a certain point of the business that they need to grow. And we come in, we come out, we're experts of what we do, and we don't have the overhead of benefits.
Exactly. And so I have a big team behind me that supports me, but they're also supporting other clients. So it gives me the opportunity to have scale behind me and to give you an opportunity to work with somebody who you might necessarily never be able to work with because you couldn't afford them at, what they want to get paid on an hourly rate. But because we have scale behind us, we're able to provide you a person that does amazing, amazing work. And then look, we become an extension of them. Our big selling is that we're essentially you. We really care about your company. We care about our company, and we know what it's like to care about a company. And we want to bring those same feelings to you. Once again, talking about empathy, we want to be incredibly empathetic, and we want to do all the right things for you. And we want to be an extension of you in the organization.
Yeah, so well said there too, and also in the times of turbulent, economy, also, right? Like you don't have to hire somebody and then let them go, a few months later. You hire for what you need for, and it also use it as a what's the word I'm thinking of? It's like a gasket to let the pressure off of some teams that might be feeling burned out. Let's bring in a temporary resource. Let's help them out. Let's help them refocus so people can be happier in their careers and reduce attrition. So using fractional folks like yourself and I to help alleviate stress on teams. I get brought in to help when hiring gets too overwhelming, right? We get brought in when they need to ramp up quickly and they don't want to hire a full-time employee, right? That's what we're good for. That's not just what we're good for, but you're looking from an economic standpoint and a cultural standpoint, it just works.
I'm the easiest person that you'll ever get rid of. I mean, you can just send me an email and saying, we're done with you. Okay, I'll see you in
I
30 days.
I say that all the time too. I'm like,
Yeah,
hey, listen, hey, when either we know we're ending, let's just say at the end of the month, end of the year,
yeah.
whatever it is, or I say, listen, if for some reason you don't like the way I'm working, just say, hey, Adam, this isn't working out. And I'm like, okay, cool, great, thanks.
Yeah, I
No
mean,
hard feelings. Bye. Moving on to the next one.
exactly. There's no performance management. There's no
I'm not
long
getting on a PIP,
process. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
We're
Yeah.
not jumping the point. So, Jason, I love this conversation. You and I could talk about this for hours here, but I want to bring it home here. Listen, we're in a whole new world. Everything's changing super fast. But from a candidate perspective, right now, I mean, you said something earlier about like the warrior mindset, right? But what is that one piece of actionable advice? Actionable advice you would give any candidate out there that's struggling to really focus and be more productive in their job search?
Um, the what I have seen lately is, and this is going to be something else that candidates are going to be like, oh gosh, another thing I need to think about. And I'm not trying to make your life more complicated, but what people are saying is, and what seems to be working is any way that you can create a really personalized touch to meet somebody or to get your resume there,
Yeah.
some personalization so that it's not just your resume that's there, it's you that's there. So whether it's going to a networking event and really making an effort to meet somebody and to present yourself in a very, what I would say, professional way. Not that I need a job way, here's my resume,
Just
but
be present.
just be present, be a person, be something that people can connect with. What I've heard time and time again lately is that seems to be really helping people get a job, is that personal one-to-one
Put in the effort.
connection with each other.
Yeah, and I think to that point, just to build on it, some people feel because they've been so scarred in this process that they're just going to continue the same thing, the spray and pray, the AI automation versus slowing down, being more focused, more strategic, and more present. Showing up to an industry, a local industry event, a local meetup, forming those connections with folks inside an organization. It may not be the decision maker, and it might be the head of TA, it may not be, the hiring manager, but someone who works in a company that could be an advocate for you. Like, hey, I met Jason at an industry event last week. He was a good guy. We had a great shop talk, and he just applied for this role. I think he'd be great for it. I'm going to vouch for him as someone who's been working here for a couple of years. Instead of like this networking is not connecting with someone on LinkedIn who you don't know and asking them to vouch for you. That's not the way it works.
Absolutely. And you hit the nail right on the head with your description. That's how people are finding jobs right now. And that's what's going on. And then networking, just like we always talk about, and I just want to remind people, once you create a strong network, and if you keep doing and keep managing your network, you call people in your network when you don't need something. So networking has become this thing where I call you when I need something and you can help me get a job. No, actually get off your butt, go ask somebody to lunch, go ask somebody for a cup of coffee, go talk to them about their kids, get to know them, have a conversation. And then when something happens on the road, you're prepared for that. So it's not just somebody, you're not just somebody calling and asking for a favor, which is not networking.
No, definitely not. Jason, what's keeping you up at night these days in the world of work?
I just think that we have so many people that are having a hard time understanding how things are working right now, in terms of candidates understanding how to get a job, employers understanding how to hire, people understanding how we deal with all those multi-state compliance issues. How do we use AI to be more efficient with employee issues? I think one of the things that we're doing is trying to, be like a breadbasket and collect everything and help people make sense of it. There's so much going on that you can be easily distracted and not making sense of things. So I think it's just, how does everybody get all these things together, pull them together, and be able to make a strategy that works? So that's what I get concerned about.
Well, we're not going to end on a down point there. Leave us some words of optimism. What are those bright lights, those signs of hope that you're seeing in the market, in the workplace, heading into 2026?
Well, I think there's a huge amount of appreciation for what HR does and what talent acquisition does. And what I mean by that is competent and quality work is really hugely recognized and really appreciated by the client. So if you're somebody that does this work and you do it well, I think there is a lot of work out there for you to be able to grab. There's a lot of people that do this work and do it poorly. So if you're able to differentiate yourself from those people who do it poorly, I think there's a great opportunity. And really, when you figure out how to use AI in this work, your productivity is going to increase dramatically. And I think that's really important for you to understand how you partner with AI and the work that you do to make yourself more efficient.
I love it. Jason, I want to thank you so much for joining me here on the podcast. Everyone, if you want to find out more, check out ThriveHRconsulting.com. We're going to link it up in the show notes. You could also connect with Jason on LinkedIn. Jason, where else could folks find you? Where could they connect? Where could they learn more?
ThriveHR Consulting is great, and I'm also on LinkedIn. Just find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to add you as a connection, and you can see a lot of the things that I'm authoring and talking about, and give you a little bit more insight into what we're working on every day. Would be great for folks to see a little bit more about what we're about.
Good stuff, Jason. Hang with me one moment here as we sign off. And everyone listening out there, thank you for spending time with Jason and I here on the podcast. You know where to find out more at thepodcast.com. Follow us on all the social media channels. Sharing means caring. If this episode meant something to you, leave a review rating. It goes a long way. Remember, be good to yourself, be better to others, and catch us next week for another good episode of the podcast. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode soon, jam-packed with more incredible humans. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing. To join the conversation, search the podcast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepodcast.com.